Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a Stronger Mind Project. I am here on a beautiful day in Phoenix, Arizona, and I am joined by my good friend Chonsten in Orlando.
Yes, sir. We're here. I don't know how hot it is out there, but hopefully, I don't know, man. It's hot out here, man.
It is 103 here.
Yeah, it's not the same here. We're like 83 degrees and it feels like 120. So I am extremely blessed.
We have no humidity here, so it's just hot.
Oh, man, that's even worse.
Yeah, especially when you get into a dark car and the interior's dark, it's just hot.
Oh, don't let it be leather. Don't let it be leather. Your whole
No,
back.
thank God it's not. But the steering wheel is. But yeah, wow. So let's just jump right into it. So
Yeah.
tell me your idea of leadership.
Yeah. Well, first, I want to say thank you so much for this opportunity. I think this is something that I like to call divine timing. And again, we've only met a month ago,
Yep.
and we've been into communication, and through that, we've found perfect timing. So I think this will be very valuable for your audience and mine as well. So again, thank you so much for holding this space. So my idea of leadership, I have two perspectives when it comes down to it. It's purposeful leadership and then managing people. We kind of got into that before we hit live. And there's two sides to it. I believe managing people comes from a place of wanting control over your personal life that leads into your professional life. Or even
Mhm.
if it's not your professional life, it may be the inverse. Maybe you don't have a lack of control in your professional life and you integrate that place into your personal life. So, what's the difference between leadership with purpose and then also managing with people, right? The
Mhm.
difference is one allows people to be authentic and bring the best out of them, and the other wants that themselves to be the center of attention to tell people what to do, when to do it, and how to do it in an ineffective way, right? My idea of leadership means you're humble enough to understand who you're trying to lead. With that being said, you're allowing them to step into their space of empowerment. How do you do that? You do that by asking thought provoking questions, being observant of their mannerisms and how they speak, what things make them twitch, what things make them excited. And then, most importantly, you allow them to be that version of themselves without any hesitation. The reason why that's important is because we all want the sense of control, but we all want that sense of empowerment too. If let's say you and I, let's say you're my boss at work, right?
Mhm.
And I'm saying, well, I'm having a tough time understanding the spreadsheets and I don't know how to do this, do this. I feel like a failure. I feel like I can't do this. Why am I even here? As a leader, I would expect you to say, hey, hold up. Let's pause for a sec. Are you okay? Like, why do you feel like you shouldn't be here? There's a reason why you're here. But why do you feel that way? And then they start to spiral. They start to think about these things. They start to analyze why they brought that up. And then as a leader, you say, hey, listen, you've been doing some incredible work. If you ever need help, don't hesitate to ask. Let me get someone that you may feel like you have a connection with that can help you through that may have a better understanding than you do. Because now what tends to happen is you let them feel seen and heard because they just vomited all their emotions on you, like, this is why I feel this way, this is why I feel that way. But then you don't brush it under the rug. You
Mhm.
see it. You say, hey, I understand you. I've been there before, right? And with that mirroring, is an effect called a mirroring, you're mirroring their effect. So now they feel more comfortable to step into their fullest and best version of themselves. So hopefully that answered the question.
Do I honestly feel that when you have a bad leader, they're displaying behavior in their professional life because they can't control their personal life.
Correct.
Um, what kinds of things do you think that lead up to being a bad leader? Is there such a thing as a bad leader? And what happens to the people that he's trying to lead at the end of the day?
Yeah, that's a great question. There is a such thing as an ineffective leader, not a bad leader, an
Mhm.
ineffective leader. I'll start with the first part of the question. You asked what leads up to someone being an ineffective leader. I believe it's not understanding themselves. Sometimes, excuse me, sometimes people are leading based off of what they saw was good leadership, right? So now they're living vicariously through something that didn't fully understand the process to become that thing, right?
Mhm.
Two, sometimes these people have never had a leadership role or a leadership figure that they could look up to that could ask those questions that allows them to be a better leader. And then sometimes some people have just been thrown in that role and is expected to just figure it out on their own. Just because they did well in quota, just because they knew somebody that knew somebody that knew somebody that gave them that position. Maybe they just got lucky, whatever the case is. But this is how someone is becoming an ineffective leader. Does his employees or people that he's trying to lead feel drained when they leave him?
Mhm.
When you go to them, do they feel heard? Do they feel understood? Do they feel like they could take away things that I can implement right this second and then just go execute it later on? Empowered.
Mhm.
Does your employees are they able to lead others without you being in the room?
Mhm.
Right? Because a good
Sometimes I feel personally that we're on this giant hamster wheel every
yeah.
day.
Hmm.
Um, because if I have a ineffective leader in my life, I don't feel as empowered. Number one, I
Okay.
leave work drained. I leave work unfulfilled for the day. So then I go home, and it's again, you're tackling the problems at home with family. The kids are all over the place. Your spouse is all over the place, and you know price of gas is going up, electricity, everything is going up, and
Yeah.
it's just a hamster wheel keeps
Yeah.
turning.
Yeah.
And once you know, I know I've reached a point where I just like throw my hands up in the air and say that's enough. Enough is enough.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people get to that point, and a lot of people don't know what to do when they get to that point,
Yeah.
because for me, I used to, when I was a younger man, go to work, and that was my escape from the
Mm,
actual real life.
mhm.
And I've had some really great leaders. I've had some really ineffective leaders in my life. Um, that's why I strive every day to be uh, to make sure my team is fulfilled. They don't feel
Yeah.
drained. They feel pumped and ready to go to tackle the day's tasks. And then
Yeah.
they go home, and they may not be mentally tired, but physically tired. But that's a little different. But
Yeah.
it goes over into their personal life. And then they feel fulfilled because they can go home and help the kids with their homework or help the
Yeah.
spouse with whatever they're dealing with, and not feel defeated
Yeah.
for the day.
That's such a great point. And something that came to mind is a while ago when I was doing a speaking engagement, I always do like topics, right? And usually that topic is centered around what that professional needs or what the professional is bringing. Because long story short, I created a platform called the Luminary Panel. We started doing workshops. And then when we did our workshops, we'll have a general title that could fit into your personal life and also your professional life. So this particular one was burning the boats. And literally, this young lady, her name is Angela Purdue, and she ended up deciding to quit her job to start into her own entrepreneurship journey. So she was like, I had to burn the boats. If I would have had a plan B, I wouldn't have been where I am today. Right. But my angle was the disconnection between work-life balance. I don't believe that's a real thing. Right. The reason why I say that is because one, there's two different places. One is at work and one is at home. Right. And because of that, most people think that it has to be a balance and one gets the short end of the stick and then rather than the other. So now this becomes a chaotic back and forth, and then that becomes friction, and through that friction, it creates fire. And for this term, I want to call it chaotic, being chaos, right? So to your point, it feels like a hamster wheel, same thing over and over and over. It becomes redundant. Keep seeing the same people that's saying the same things. They don't want to grow. They just want to complain and all these things, right? Here's what I want us to understand is that there is a such thing between work, life, and business integration. There's things that you could do at home that will allow your professional life to be just as if you were at home and vice versa, right? It's about being intentional with your time, intentional with your words, intentional with the people that you decide to, hang around with. There's some people that you can't avoid, obviously, like your boss, right? But there's ways to empower them so that you're empowered, right? How do you do that? You ever heard of the myth of like taking your boss to lunch or something like that, right? It's not just so that you guys can have a great dinner and chop it up or have a good time just talking about anything, right? It's more so about helping them understand that I see you as well. Maybe you're going through some things and you're kind of projecting those feelings internally. This is what you're saying. Let me try to figure out what that is so that we can connect a little bit better, right? But as an overall workplace, there's a culture that's supposed to be set, a standard that's supposed to be set. The disconnection comes when individuals have their own agenda or their mentality is, I'm just here to get another check, right? So now I want to tap into this word alignment. And I'll bring this full circle in a sense.
Okay.
So this word alignment is so crucial is because when you become crystal clear about who you are, what you do, and where you want to go, you know exactly who you want to be around, what you want to talk about, and where you're going later on. Sometimes people say, oh, let's do an outing. And you have a goal to be at home in bed by 10 o'clock, but the outing starts at 8 o'clock. What tends to happen is people do it because they want to be involved, right? They want to be a part of something. They want to feel like, oh, I don't want to be a disappointment. Oh, I want to get some cool brownie points with my boss. Or if those things don't align to the version of you that you said, I want to get home by 8 o'clock so I can get up at 5 o'clock, go work out, eat well, then get back to work so I can be my best version every day. Right? So here's the integration. The integration comes from you understanding exactly where you want to do or what you want to do, where you want to be, and who you want to become, being crystal clear on that, and then saying yes or no to the things that align to that version of yourself. Right? Okay. It's so many people in our personal lives. I'll talk about the personal side. There's so many people or things, or I'll talk about myself in a sense. I used to be a chronic people's pleaser. The moment I started saying no was the first time I said yes to me. And the moment I said yes to me was the moment my perspective opened up to the things that weren't meant for me. So now, because of that, it allowed me to say, I like this. Let me explore this. No, that does not feel right. And usually when I get enough yeses, I get the opportunity that I'm looking for, and it gets me a lot closer to the goal that I set for myself. Right? Now, how do you do this in the workplace? let's say you're having a hard time with the spreadsheets, like my example earlier. You have a hard time with the spreadsheets. You don't feel comfortable talking to your boss, but you really want to do well because you know this is probably a potential way for you to get promoted, wherever the case is, right? But you trust somebody in your circle, right? Excuse me. You trust somebody in your coworkers, your colleagues, and you say, "Hey, listen, I'm having a really hard time." Going back to humility, I'm having a really hard time. I really want to get this. Are there any tips or tactics that you've used to understand this spreadsheet? Oh yeah, absolutely. What that did was you said no to your ego to try to figure out on your own. You said yes to the ability to learn something that you're having an issue with, right? And you mentioned something that this month is suicide awareness. Is that I believe I've dealt with clients. A lot of my clients have dealt with that situation, and I commend you and your story for being here and you saying yes to yourself, man. So, but here's the thing that I've figured out or understood is that most times we feel like we don't have a safe space to ask for help.
You're
So
very yeah.
because we
That's
don't have that safe space, we carry that burden on our shoulders until it's just time to pop.
mhm.
And unfortunately, it's them feeling like they have to end the world for themselves because they just couldn't figure out how to get there, right?
There's no safe space at work. There's no safe space at home.
Right. So now it's you versus you.
Correct. You're battling yourself.
Exactly. And who's going to win that battle?
Certainly not you.
Not you. It's going to
Yeah.
be the other you,
Yeah.
right? But how do we program our mind to do that, right? We program our mind to understand based off of your DNA. I believe in God, your source, whatever you connect with. Your source is primed for you to be in a positive state.
Mhm.
That other version of you is in a negative state. You being crystal clear in yourself understands the difference between the one and the two, right? So if you feel your brain going through this negative spiral saying, "Oh, I'm not worth it," or "I don't have a safe space," or "I don't have this," you know that's coming from the other version of you that you don't want to win, right? And then you got the other version of you that has seen yourself win, have seen yourself happy, has seen yourself exceeding expectations that you didn't even know that you can exceed. And that version is still there. It's just about finding it in the fine tunes, right? So what I
Mhm.
like to teach my clients is one of the many ways is to allow that negative talk to be the trigger to help you remind yourself who you truly are. Right? Easier said than done. Again, I was a chronic people's pleaser, right? I had to learn how to ask for help. Because the worst thing I can experience is somebody saying, "Oh, I helped you," and they just throw it in my face. Oh, I'd rather do it on my own, right?
Yeah.
But understanding that people are always in their own projective, they're always on their own, they're in their own world, right? Our job as incredible human beings, reaching our fullest potential, living out through their purpose, is not to be, "Woe is me." It's to be, "How can I help you?" Is a servant mindset, right? So think about this. There's so many times where we will see people on the side of the road and they're asking for money, right? And some people, I understand why people are like, "I'm not giving them money. They're just gonna go use it for drugs," right? Maybe, but that has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with the intention on why you're giving them the money.
Right.
Is to serve them, to support them, to give. And usually it comes from an impactful place, which is love, right?
It's very hard for me to watch people struggle
Yeah, me and you both,
and not
brother.
want to get in there and fix it because I'm a chronic fixer.
Yeah,
I also overthink
yeah,
everything. Anything that's negative, I overthink. You know, just the way it is for me. And I had to learn that um, it's okay not to have all the right answers all the time. And it's okay that I don't have to fix everything all the time. Sometimes I just have to stand back and let it play out.
Yep.
And that's been the hardest part of all of this stuff that I've been through the last 5 or 6 years. It's learning when to just step back and let life play out.
Yeah. Exactly. It goes back to that word control.
Hmm.
We're trying to control the outcome based off of what we think is best for the outcome.
Right.
But what if we were to control that thing, right? What if we were to control that outcome and then not be the outcome that was meant for us to receive? So now
But
we just missed out. Go ahead.
but we're men. We're
We're men.
meant. We're trained as young men, as boys, by our fathers and their fathers before them, that we have to control everything in our life.
Yeah.
That we have to maintain um, control. We have to maintain a positive attitude towards everything, even though it's not
Yeah.
always all positive.
Yeah.
But we have to stay strong for every little thing in our life. We
Absolutely.
can't show any weakness.
Absolutely. I actually just had a conversation with my girlfriend, and I said, "You know what's different about you?" And she said, "What is that?" I said, "You actually give me a space to relinquish control. You allow me to be me, and because of that, it allows me to lead the way I need to lead." Think about this. Have you ever had to make a spontaneous decision?
Mhm.
Did it usually pan out well? Most
Sometimes,
times.
yeah, yeah,
Sometimes, right?
sometimes.
You made that decision without thinking. It became an instinct, right?
Mhm.
Became an instinct. Now think about if you had to make that decision and you only had 2 minutes to make that decision, and you decide to go into the spiral in your brain. Like, oh, is this way? Is this way? Is this way? This way? By the time you make the decision, the 2 minutes are up,
Right.
right? How do we do that? We go into this thing called flow. And that is the difference. There's this thing. I think if I may kind of combat that ideology that we were raised in, is to control everything, right? But there's this beautiful dance that actually gives us this integration between the beauty of life and also the difficulty of life. It's called divinity, right?
Okay.
Divine masculinity, right? We're going to tap into that a
Mhm.
little bit. So there's this book called The Superior Man, The Way of the Superior Man, excuse me. And it talks about the dance between the feminine and the masculine. Most times people think masculine means so strong, tough, in control, everything's my way or the highway. That's not the case. And people think that feminine, being feminine means that you're a woman and you're soft and you're dainty and you're so cute and you want to do the flowers. That's also not the case.
No.
Being feminine means that you're tapped into your emotions in a way where you understand other people's emotions. Because if you think about it, women are emotional creatures, or feminine people are emotional creatures. Masculine people are a lot more logistical. All right, I'm gonna do it this way, this way, this way, this way. Okay, this is how it's gonna go. This is why I do it this way. Da 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 da. Right. But if we can find the integration between the two, it allows us to have this thing called flow. Right. And
Mhm.
through that flow, we make decisions based off of what we know is right rather than what we think is right. Because now we're tapped into our emotions. We understand, all right, I'm upset, and this is what triggered me to be upset, which is a feminine trait. How do I fix it? Logistical trait, right? So
Mhm.
now this is where the dance becomes like prevalent. The dance between, or as a man, masculine, divine masculinity means I can see that you're sad and can meet you where you are while empathizing with you, right? Empathizing with you, understanding, hey man, I understand it. I just cried about that yesterday. I felt that pain before. This
Mhm.
is how I felt, right? And not making them feel less than. That's why men now are having a difficult time asking for help because when they do be vulnerable or when they are vulnerable, they feel like it's a disgrace. It's a shun.
It's a failure.
It's a failure.
Yep.
But what if we were to have the perspective of saying, this is actually a win? Now I have another perspective on how to see the situation. Now, when the situation comes again, I understand what I went through, and now I know how to handle it again.
Right.
Right? I think we don't give ourselves enough credit. We don't cry enough. I actually think that's a powerful indication of masculinity. If a man is okay with crying and okay with knowing that that is not a failure and is not his identity of him being a softer guy, you can still get up and say, hey, let's go get it. Because we don't have enough moments. We don't have enough time for ourselves. We're not present enough. We're always thinking about the future. We're thinking about our past.
Yeah, but for a guy to display emotion, they have to feel safe
Yeah.
to display that emotion.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I agree.
sometimes that is difficult.
It is. So let me ask you this. Why do you believe it's difficult for men to not show that emotion?
It's a mindset.
Okay. Explain.
My father never showed emotion in public. My grandfather never showed emotion in public. So therefore, my two role models in life showed me that I don't show emotion in public.
Okay.
Hey, that must be in my world, in my thinking, that was the correct way of doing it.
Absolutely.
Even though it's
Right.
wrong, but
Yeah.
that's the way I perceived it as a young man growing up with the two men that I followed and wanted to be like. That's the way they did it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it was wrong.
Yeah.
Because you have to be able to be vulnerable at any point.
Yeah.
Even if you're standing in front of a group of people that you know nothing about, and you're talking about either your a life story or you're talking about anything, and all of a sudden you tear up, you don't want the people that you're talking to see your emotion. Oh my God, he's weak. That's prime example.
Yeah. That's a fantastic example.
You don't want to appear weak in front of a group of people that are looking up to you because you don't want them to think again that you're weak.
Right. So now if you paid attention to how you explained that, would you say that that is a story that you put into your own mind before not the part of you seeing your father and your grandfather showing no emotion in public, but you get in front of a group of people and they see you shed a tear and you create that story in your brain that is not allowing them to see you weak? Is that a story that you put in your brain?
Because
Right?
you don't want to appear authentic in front of a group of people that you don't know, because heaven forbid they would see you for who you
Ooh,
are.
there's so many points I want to touch on. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. As a speaker, because I know you're a speaker and you already have a podcast, obviously you're a speaker. One of the most powerful tactics in speaking is evoking emotion.
Mhm.
You can't evoke emotion if you're stonewalled. If I told you my story, L, I just had a baby girl and I was sleeping in my car and I bounced from hotel to hotel. There's no connection,
Mm.
right? But if I were to say it in a way like, I remember seeing my baby girl and I only had $2 in my bank account and I couldn't even give her fries. And as a father, there's a father understand that maybe had to go through that situation and they understood. And so now we have that connection. Now they understand that, oh, I'm not alone in this, right?
Mhm.
I'm going to say this. Being vulnerable is a superpower for men.
Mm-hmm.
I believe holding that emotional state. Obviously, you don't want to be like, "Oh my god!" Like, obviously, you want to have some control and some, respect for yourself. But I feel like when it comes to human connection, people need to be seen the way that they see themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and especially if they look up to you, they need to see that you can relate to them,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, like for example, one of my favorite speakers is Ed Milet, and he's mastered the component of evoking emotions. And when he talks about his dad and his passing, pretty much his dad was an alcoholic, and on the later part of his life, he decided like I'm gonna stop drinking. And he said, I don't know if I'll stop drinking, but I'll give it one more day, and one more time, and one more day, and one more day, and one more day, and that collected into like 15 years of sobriety, right? But every time he talks about the earlier part of his journey, he makes people feel how he felt in that moment when he was a little boy. So now people can fit themselves in that box of, oh, maybe my grandma wasn't there for me. My mom wasn't there for me. Or my mom or dad used to do the worst things to me. I can see that this is normal, especially from someone that I look up to, right? And it's not about him being uh looking for attention because he's crying. It's more so he doesn't care about how people look at him. He understands the mission that's being set upon him to be the best version of himself, to evoke the most emotion so that he can get the most transformation out of people, the most impact in people. So people can see it in themselves that they can do the same thing that he did. If he transformed his life and I'm looking up to him and I know he can do this and I've seen him do this, I know for sure that's my plan too. Right? So it is difficult. I'm not combating that at all. I actually had to learn that for myself. I actually talk about this in my speaking engagement where I had to forgive my father in a
Mm-hmm.
way where because you left so early, I thought I wasn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
There's this fountain that I always talk about. It's an epiphany that happened to me. So God told me to go sit down by this fountain. There's pretty much 5 layers to it. There's little circles that allows the water to overflow. The water starts from the top, and then another layer, then a layer, another layer, then another layer, and then it falls into the ground. And through that, I opened my eyes, and then for me, the Holy Spirit talked to me and said, "You are more than enough. More than this water overflows to the ground." So then I had to go have a conversation with my dad. I said, "Listen, Dad, this is probably the hardest conversation I've ever had, but I don't care about my emotions. I don't care if you cry. I don't care if I cry. I just want to heal from this. I don't want this to be a regret towards you because I understand what is making me feel when I want to connect with other people." Right?
It's hard because here I was 50 years old before I decided that I was going to forgive my parents for the
Oh,
years
wow.
of abuse,
Wow. Okay.
mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. It was bad.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, both my parents had passed.
Wow.
So I
I'm sorry for
couldn't
that.
have that conversation. But
Yeah.
I had that conversation out loud one evening, sitting at home and just talking
Wow.
and saying, I forgive you and making amends with that particular part of my life because
Yeah.
that all gets back to the healing part of anybody
Yeah.
is you have to learn to forgive the people that did it to you.
Yeah.
Plus, you have to forgive yourself,
Ooh,
which is heavy.
that's so good.
You know,
I like to
I
say this.
I
Sorry,
beat
sorry to
myself
cut you
up.
off.
That's okay.
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
I beat myself up every day because it's like, what was it about me that wasn't enough for my parents' love?
Mm,
Why did my father feel that he had to physically abuse me to feel whole? What
mm,
was it about my mother or about me that my mother felt that emotionally abusing me made her feel empowered?
mm,
Now, my mother did not work. She did not drive. So I understand where my mother where that all that came from, because she was not happy in her life. So she was forcing her unhappiness onto me.
Mm,
And my sister, who is older than I am,
mm,
was the yes person.
mm,
You know, whatever mom and dad wanted, which is why she was the favorite.
mm,
You know, I was the one that went to college. I was the one that wanted better life. I left home at 20 years old and did not go back.
mm.
And again, it was to my 50th birthday, sitting on an edge of a bed with a knife in my hand, ready to go,
Wow.
asking God and the source, what the hell do you want from me?
Wow.
What is meant for me on this planet?
Wow.
And he, forgive, Will, forgive. And I'm like, why would I forgive people who made me feel this way? Because that's the first part in healing.
Yep.
You got to forgive.
Yep. That's so many good points. And I'm sorry to hear that your parents passed, but I'm glad you got a chance to release that energy, right? I always like to tell all my speaking engagements, all my clients that forgiveness is not for us. Or sorry, it's not for them, it's for us.
Mhm.
It's for us to release that. Because people are going to be people, right?
Mhm.
And it's tough because there's so many people that have been in similar situations as you where their parents are abusing them mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, energetically, and they just want to prove to them that, hey, I'm here. You don't
Mhm.
have to do that. I'm near a safe space. But think about this way, Will. A lot of people or a lot of parents are only parenting based off of how they were parents
Correct. Yep.
from their parents.
Right.
So think about how they were raised
Right.
and they only knew that way,
Right.
right? So with that being said and that being understood, you're giving yourself the understanding of giving more grace to
Mhm.
people that may not understand the way you understand, right?
You know, I I I I looked at my grandfather, my father's father,
Okay.
who was a very religious man.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with. Have all the respect in the world for that. But my grandfather was so religious that he would not allow my grandmother to go to the hospital when she had a stroke.
Wow.
The kids, my father and his sister, had to get a court order to get her out of the house because my grandfather, was of the opinion that God would heal her.
Wow.
Now, and that ruined all the all the that gave me a bad taste about religion
Oh
in my
yeah.
life.
Yeah.
So I had to learn what religion was or is on my own.
Yeah.
And I understand my grandfather felt the way he felt, and that's to what he believed.
Yeah.
Okay. I had to learn that that was okay for him
Yeah.
and not to judge him based on that, because that's how he raised my father. So, here we are back on this hamster wheel of the generational hamster wheel of me, my father, his father, his father. It's just
Mm-hmm.
back and forth, all on
Yeah.
this hamster wheel.
Yeah.
And each generation, it kept getting worse.
Yeah.
Because, back when my grandfather was young, that was the way it was.
Yeah.
Not so much when my father was there, not so much, hell of it, not now.
Yeah.
And, so at some point, you have to learn to break the cycle.
That's it.
You got to learn. You got to break that cycle, or it's just going to keep going on and on and on and on and on. And
Absolutely.
people are just never going to allow themselves to heal and be seen and be heard, and to realize that there is more to life than just what's going on currently. You don't
Absolutely.
have to, feel bad. You don't have to get up and go to a lousy job that you hate every day.
Hmm.
I see people like that all day long.
Yeah.
I was
Me
standing
too.
in line at the gas station this morning, and this young man walked up. He had something to eat and a drink in his hand. While he didn't have enough money to pay for the drink.
Yeah.
Okay, so the clerk let him walk out the store with whatever he had to eat, and she turned around and threw the drink away.
Wow.
And I walked up to her and I said, "Why did you not just give it to him?" Well, because he couldn't pay for it. But again, you're going to throw it away anyway.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you just give it to him and say, next time, ask before you do something, or, whatever it is? He would have thought more of you and returned to your store,
Hmm.
or just by showing an act of kindness.
Yep.
And I told her, I said, show some kindness in your day, please.
Yeah.
You're talking about a soda that cost you 10 cents.
Yeah.
Why would you just take it and throw it away?
Yeah. It's so funny that you bring that up, man. And it actually touches on what I do for a living, which is helping people rediscover what purpose looks like for them. And reality is, the harsh reality is that there's so many people that are unclear about who they are.
Mhm.
So now they're in this fight or flight and they become protective of who they are because that's the only sense of control that they have, especially if they're not living a life of what they want to live.
Right.
And we blame social media for that because there's so many people, fake gurus, all these things that are showing this life like, oh, if you do this one thing, you'll be a millionaire, or
Mm.
you'll be living in this house, or your girlfriend should be doing this, or your boyfriend should be doing this, your husband, your wife. But how realistic is that?
Mm.
Not realistic at all. But if we could get crystal clear on who you are and what you can align to, you create more fulfillment. And what we're truly looking for, Will, is bliss.
Mhm.
We're looking for peace. There's so much chaos around the world. There's so much things that we're supposed to consider. There's so much evil going on around the world. There's so many things that we don't have any control over, but because we are here, we don't appreciate our present. Being present allows us to be observant of the things that's going around, but we don't attach to those things
Right.
because those things aren't meant for us to attach to unless we're called to attach to those things.
Right.
Right? So it goes back to alignment. How do we become more aligned? Well, again, to my point earlier, being crystal clear on what that is. But if you have a hard time with that, what do I like and do not like? It's as simple as that. Do I want to do this or do I not want to do this?
If I was, I look at this from a very interesting point of view as a leader.
Yeah.
I want my people to feel empowered to make decisions that best suit the business.
Okay.
Now, if I was that manager of that gas station, I would want my employee to make the decision to give the soda away
Mm-hmm.
to win a customer back versus saving 10 cents. What what good does that do? I'm in the service industry.
Okay. Yeah.
I've been in the service industry for 25, 30 years,
Yeah.
restaurants, hotels, you name it. And
Yeah.
it all boils down to the better you take care of a client, the more they will return to you.
Yep. Spot on.
And I had to learn that the hard way.
Yeah.
COVID. The
Mm.
better you took care of a client during COVID, the more they took care of you out of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Disney is learning that very powerful statement now.
Yeah.
And it's sad that we've gotten to this point that people don't feel empowered to make decisions because they're so afraid of what their boss is going to think. And that boss is so afraid of what his boss is going to think that
Yeah.
we lost the human factor in all of this.
Yeah. Now we're robots.
Yes.
We're appeasing people. We're
Yes.
people pleasing again.
Yes.
So now the reason why you're doing so well and you've lasted so long in your industry is because you have a servant heart.
Hmm.
You're not thinking about yourself. You're thinking about how this could help the people that are going to be entering into this place. How can we make them feel the best? Because that's the purpose, is
Yep.
to serve the customer.
Right.
But what's the mission? The mission is to show up every day in every way so that they can feel accommodated. But what's the vision? What's the long-term goal? I want to be able to open up 4 or 5 of these with the same culture so that this culture can fit into this culture, and it becomes this turnkey system that nobody can feel. It becomes like this identity of the servant, the company, right? So here's the thing, Will. We lost the art of that as human beings in our personal life and also professionally.
Right.
We've lost the art of creating a culture that breeds intimacy, that breeds impact. We ran away from it. And COVID was probably one of the reasons why, to create division. But think about it. If you go to Chick-fil-A, it's a perfect example. Do you guys have Chick-fil-A in Arizona?
Hmm.
Okay, cool. No matter if you go to Arizona Chick-fil-A or you go to Orlando's Chick-fil-A, you're going to get the same service.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
not because the food is any different.
Nope.
It's not because the people are any different. They set a standard so high, and if you do not meet this standard, you cannot fit into this box. Why can't we do that in our personal lives?
Right.
Because if you're so certain about who you are, you won't take certain things.
No.
Right? As a leader, if somebody come in, say, Will, I quit. I'm not doing this again. You're like, okay, bye. Because we don't need that attitude here.
Mm-mm.
If you had an issue before, you would have came to me. I would have been able to help you fix that.
Right.
But now you left with an attitude and didn't realize that I could help you fix that. So now what do we do as management? We always take accountability. As leaders, we always take accountability. Maybe I could have did something different to make them feel more safe to come to me when they had an issue. Cool. But when we have these group huddles, what are we doing once we take that accountability? What are we doing so that the masses are on the same page as us? Are we speaking in one tone? Are we living in our authenticity? Are we living amongst the vision and the mission and the purpose of why we're here?
Right.
Did we create the purpose? Did we create the culture needed so that not only our employees feel it, but the entire ecosystem of this company can feel it, including the customers? In the family setting, am I being a leader as a man? Am I being a leader as a woman to make sure that my kids or my family, my household, is understanding the standard that we're setting so that when we go outside of these 4 walls that we call a home, are we leading by example to help people feel more empowered, equipped, and develop with the tools to help them be successful?
Yep.
It comes down to being clear, right? So I'm glad you brought that up, man.
Bottom line is we all need to be more um, thought-provoking in our own lives. That way we know what our goal is.
Yep.
We know what our standard is,
Yeah.
and we know what our impact,
Yeah.
how impactful our words are, our actions are to everywhere, not just at home, not just at work, but everywhere we go.
Yep.
Our actions are speaking louder than our words should be.
Absolutely. There's this word called intentionality, being intentional, right? I had to learn that the hard way.
Yep.
There's times where, as I was climbing my own professional ladder of reaching certain goals, I started to get more confident. Understanding having the right people in your corner that could see that and say, "Hey, yo, you gotta relax. You gotta calm down, man. People are watching you now.
Mhm.
Every move you make, everything you say, they're gonna hold you against that." My mentor now, he said this to me maybe like a month or two ago. I was going through some things. I was like, "Yo, I need some advice on some stuff. I need your help." Excuse me. And he said this, and it will never leave me. And hopefully it blesses you. He said, "The actions that you take or do not take, the things that you say or do not say, will have a consequence, either negatively or positively, based off of the decision that you made."
Correct.
Which means you got to think through what you say, what you do, because now you're seen at this level. You set a standard so high for yourself. Now people are seeing you at that standard. They're expecting you to be at that standard.
I hold myself to the standard of doing the right thing every day. Now, do I fail sometimes? Absolutely.
Absolutely. We're
But
not perfect.
I know at the end of the day where I failed,
Mm-hmm.
and I know what not to do again.
Yes. You know what we call that, Will? Self-awareness.
Yes.
You've done the work.
Yeah.
So now that's actually a part of the divine masculinity, like we talked about earlier.
Mhm.
Being self-aware when you can hold yourself accountable.
Right.
Because if you have an ego, you're gonna be like, "Oh no, I did that for a reason," and so what? Whoever it hit, so what?
Yeah.
But how does
People
that correlate to the standard that you set for yourself?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep. You
So
know,
yeah.
wow, what a neat conversation.
Yeah, this was fun, man. It's already an hour?
Yes.
Dang.
See, that's what I'm saying is, we could go probably a couple more hours just on
Yeah.
these few topics that we've talked about. But at the end of the day, you know, being fulfilled by having authentic conversation
Yes.
and being vulnerable enough to realize that, you know, you and I may just hit one person, but that's one more person's life that we change.
Yes. And that's always my goal. One person
Yes.
at a time. That's all I can do.
So
Right?
thank you for that.
Anytime. And I wanted to leave you with this too. And I think a lot of your audience may feel this is that we are in the proximity of our purpose. We're
Mhm.
closer than we think, which means most people think that there's an extrinsic event that's supposed to happen for me to feel like I'm in my purpose. There's an achievement that I have to achieve for me to feel like I'm in my purpose. But there's so many influencers, there's so many uh normal human beings, celebrities that may reach a certain level and still are not happy.
Mhm.
And they end up, unfortunately, committing suicide,
Mhm.
right? Because they thought that this exterior world was supposed to give them validation in a way where it's solving the problems that they had internally. So because they felt like they weren't seen or loved, they feel like they had to be on social media every day and get this large following. And then once they get that large following, they don't understand, like, that's not it. Or maybe they grew up poor and they thought if I made a lot of money, if I had to do certain situations for me to make a lot of money, and I get that money, I still don't feel that void.
Right.
That's the part that we're here to to dissect and rediscover and switch and transform that perspective. Why? Because so many people that are fantastic human beings that have a ton of purpose and potential that are living through a lens of materialistic, people pleasing view.
Right.
But they don't want to. They don't want to, admit that because again, it goes back to that A word, awareness. They don't have the self awareness. They haven't done the work. They haven't seen themselves, and they haven't done the thought provoking things. So you find people like myself and Will that can coach you through that.
Mm-hmm.
Get someone that has done the work and can see you for who you are and what you've been through. It's not a cookie cutter approach. It's something that's going to impact you for where you are. Right? So the proximity, and I'll leave you with this, the proximity of purpose means that you're centered around a fantastic group of people that can hold you to the standard that you set for yourself, and they can see surpass your potential now and where they can see you from like 10 years from now. That's one part. You getting crystal clear and being okay with being still. So many people want to move so fast and miss out on opportunities, but if you were just to sit still, you talk about meditation a lot in your episodes. Meditation, being still and just allowing your thoughts to flow.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding what we talked about earlier, that you versus you, which you is winning the battle versus you? Is it the negative part, which is not really in our DNA, or the positive part, the one that you're programmed to have? You're programmed to live in abundance. You're programmed to live in love. You're programmed to live in impact. But most importantly, is getting around that environment that is conducive to the version of you that you said you wanted to become.
Right.
So if you know you want to lose 20 pounds, you're not supposed to hang out at what's the buffet? CC's Pizza buffet. Yeah. Right? You're not supposed to hang out there. The environment is probably around the gym or going around walks or the parks. The environment matters. And those are things that we could change today. We don't have to wait until these things happen. You can change that today. Right? So I just wanted to leave you with that.
Well spoken, my friend. Well spoken.
Thank you, brother.
All right. Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. And I will leave you with a question, all of you. What is your purpose? And when is the last time you actually asked yourself what your purpose is? Ask yourself that and see what comes up. Thank you, and we'll see you next time. Have a great night, everyone.
Have a good one. Thank you again.